Emotional content is filmed on Whadjuk Noongar land. This podcast acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of country. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land. This episode contains discussions of drug use, trauma, and other challenging life experiences that may be distressing to some listeners. Please take care when listening. For immediate support, contact Lifeline at 13 11 14. Come for the stories, stay for the connection. I'm your host, Amy Jane Brand, and this is your weekly dose of emotional content. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Emotional Content. I hope you are all having a great start to the week. With the rates of violence continuing to rise against women in Australia, I wanted to do an episode on how we can better protect ourselves, along with becoming more street smart. And at the end of this episode, I will also share with you some of my own close call experiences, unpacking how I felt in those moments and what I did to keep myself safe. This episode is dedicated to women everywhere, no matter where you are listening from. From feeling uneasy, walking alone at night with our keys clenched between our knuckles, to second-guessing what we wear because of unwanted attention, it's a reality that so many of us know all too well. Whether you are a cis woman, a trans woman, or someone who identifies as a woman, you all deserve to feel safe existing in this world. I also want to acknowledge that our queer community, our gays and nays, have also experienced what it feels like to be targeted, objectified, or made to feel unsafe just for being who we are. Today, I'm making this conversation happen for all of us. And as a side note, by no means am I suggesting that only men can be abusers or cause harm, because women very much can as well. Anyone is capable of hurting someone. But I want to speak today from my own personal experiences. This is about keeping us all safe. According to recent stats, one woman is killed nearly every week in Australia by a current or former partner. And over 1 in 4 women have experienced violence by an intimate partner since the age of 15. These numbers aren't just stats. They represent real people and real lives. Now, before we get started, I really wanted to acknowledge something important that's happening within the Australian influencer space right now. There's been a lot of conversation currently happening around the Paul family and Michaela Tester, who has now bravely come out and decided to speak her truth on her experiences of alleged sexual, domestic, emotional, and financial abuse during her relationship with Atis Paul, also known as Atis Paul. Atis, or Atis, however you want to say it, has previously been convicted of a very serious crime, and the current discussions involve both him and members of the Paul family. I also want to acknowledge the other women who've come forward. First, there was Alice, now Michaela, and recently, Jemiah, for their strength in sharing their own experiences. With all the public attention on this, it's important to remember the bigger picture. Women are speaking out about serious allegations of abuse. And unfortunately, a lot of people have turned this into gossip and entertainment, when in reality, these are conversations about trauma, harm, and accountability. It's bigger than online drama, much bigger. Rather than sharing my own personal opinions about the situation, I wanted to use this moment to offer something that might support you instead, by sharing some of my best advice that I've learned over the years about staying safe, becoming more street smart, and reconnecting with those gut instincts and survival skills we sometimes ignore. Now, I haven't shared my own personal experience yet with domestic violence. I'm simply not ready to. But as a survivor myself, I want to say that I stand with Michaela, Alice, and Jemiah. I'd also like to say, anyone who willingly enables or gives a platform to someone accused of abusing young women, or with a criminal history involving the harm of others, in my opinion, is complicit in the harm that their actions cause. Silence, ignorance, or turning a blind eye only further perpetuates violence against women and vulnerable communities. If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse or needs support, please reach out to 1-800-RESPECT, a free 24/7 national support service here in Australia. For more resources and help, you can visit my website at emotionalcontent.com.au. Please remember that you are not alone. Now, let's get into the episode. Okay, so all of these tips and tricks that I have in here are really valuable things to know and great to implement into your daily lifestyle. It's a case of doing it to keep yourself safe and just be vigilant rather than becoming paranoid about it. Some of these might be obvious to you, but we just forget to do them, and others will be brand new educational information. A lot of these I picked up when I was living by myself in America because I felt like I had to really double down on how I kept myself safe over there. And some of these I learned from doing my research. So the first one, which I think is a really, really valuable one to know, is the pizza order emergency call. If you're in danger and can't speak openly, which is very often when you're in danger, call 000 or wherever you are. If it's America, it's 911, and pretend to order a pizza. Operators are trained to ask yes or no questions, and they know how to get you help. So if you ring up and say you want this pepperoni pizza and you give your address, they will start asking yes or no questions rather than open-ended questions, and they will be able to get you help as soon as possible instead of being in a panic and potentially getting attacked. This is a really good one to know. So note that one down mentally, the pizza order emergency call. The next one I have is controlled confidence rule. Walk with purpose, head up, shoulders back, even if you don't know where you are going. Confidence makes you a less likely target. And this is exactly what I had to learn to do walking through downtown LA most days. You are always better off presenting yourself out in the world as someone that's confident, you know where you're going, and you don't look uneasy or unsure, because to attackers, that shit makes you vulnerable. If you look like you don't know where you're going, if you look like a tourist, you immediately stick out like a sore thumb. So walk with your shoulders back and look confident. It's really a case of faking it till you make it. If you feel uneasy, just don't make yourself look uneasy. Another thing when I was living in downtown, which I need to say, if you guys don't know how dangerous it is there, near Skid Row, maybe do a little bit of a Google search because it's pretty full on. So much shit happens down there on a daily basis. And unfortunately, I spent quite a few years living in that area. So I had to really get my wits about me and learn how to be as street smart as possible. I always was fairly street smart because I was up to so much shit when I was younger, but Australia is still very different to America. It's a whole nother level. So this is what I call the street smart walk. Obviously, there was like the controlled confidence rule, and now this is street smart walking. Stay clear of parked cars, alleys, and doorways. Keep your phone out of sight and be aware of who's around you. It's good to not be looking down at your phone when you're walking. Even if you're following maps, try and keep that to a minimum. If you look distracted, you're a target. So if you're walking in an area that you're unsure of, your gut is giving you some weird vibes, stay away from parked cars if you can. Alleys, I would stay away from those. When I was walking in downtown, there was so many alleys filled with dodgy people. People passed out with needles hanging out of their arms. It was very sad, but it was also extremely dangerous. And doorways, if you can, dark doorways, someone could pop out of it. This is obviously, sounding a little bit over the top. We are very blessed here in Australia, but I still think that these rules do apply. If you're walking through a space that doesn't feel comfortable to you, implement these rules and it will hopefully prevent you from being in any danger. So the next one is talking about situational awareness. This is your first line of defense. Always be aware of your surroundings, exits, and people nearby. Use reflective surfaces like car windows, shop fronts, or even your phone screen if needed. So don't get distracted on the phone when you're walking. Use it as a tool. Just hold it in your hand and see who's walking behind you. And again, with the car windows or shop fronts. Those are really great ways of checking who's behind you very discreetly. The next one, I've called it the shout out trick. If you feel like you're being watched or followed, shout out to somebody. Pretend you can see someone in a crowd or start shouting at a random person. Pretend you know them and walk in that direction. This will immediately deter them, 100%. I have used this on multiple occasions. I did it out of instinct and realized just how effective it actually is. If you're shouting towards good people, they usually start playing along with it. On both occasions, people acted like they knew me once I got closer to them and kind of said, like, please help. even if there's nobody there and you're like walking towards your car at night, you can start shouting out and being like, I see you. Hey, how are you going? I'm almost there. It sounds really silly and it feels really silly, but this can literally throw someone off. If someone is following you and they think there's someone there meeting you, they run. They go in the other direction. They're done. They're not going to continue that. It's very rare that they will continue when they think somebody else is in the picture. The stop and pivot trick, if you feel someone is following you, you can stop abruptly and face them. It signals confidence and you really catch them off guard. I guess if you've got the balls to do it, you can just straight up turn around and be like, what the fuck? Somebody that is following you and kind of treating you like prey is looking at you like you're weak. And if you turn around and face them, they're usually going to get quite put off by that. And as sick and twisted as this is, they want someone who's weak. They don't want somebody who's confident. They don't want to fight on their hands. So that, again, is something that can deter them. But it's not something that everyone can do, and that's totally understandable. We also have the flight and freeze, where we just freeze up when we are under threat, and that is a natural human response. Understandable. There's nothing worse than being followed. There's nothing worse than feeling like you are prey. But if you can turn around and give these motherfuckers a surprise, I 100% endorse doing that. The other thing that you can do if you're really concerned about someone following you is the shoelace pause. Stopping and pretending to tie your shoe forces a follower to adjust their own pace, giving you time to assess if you are actually being followed. If you just stop and throw that leg up on something, start tying your shoelace and look to the side, you will be able to tell if this person's like stopped as well or they're pretending to do something else whilst you're paused. Yeah, it's a pretty clear indication as to whether someone is actually following you or not. It takes an incredibly smart, I'm going to say criminal, to continue walking past without being fazed at all if you've stopped. Do you know what I mean? Like if they went flying past you and didn't look at you at all, that takes a pretty well-versed person at doing this. Usually they've just got you as their eyes on the prize, and if you choose to stop, they are usually going to pause as well. The no pattern principle. Now, I learnt my lesson big time on this one, which I will talk about at the end of the episode. I'll talk about my own experiences, but this is really fucking important. You don't just have to have an online following for this shit to happen. You can literally just be someone with, 10 followers, but one of those 10 followers has their eye on you and they've decided they want to know where you are. And if you have a predictable pattern of where you're going, it makes it much easier for you to be found. So here I have written, avoid predictable routines like running at the same route, at the same location, and at the same time of day. Being unpredictable makes you harder to track. I see so many influencers, creators, I see them go to the same spots every single day, and it freaks me out. Even with the alarming rates of violence against women rising in this country, I think we are all just a little bit too comfortable. I've caught myself doing it and I just think, oh shit, I really need to not do that because you just never know. It's a good thing to be aware of, especially if you have kids. If you're walking at the same place every single morning, it's time to switch it up a little bit. It's time to break that up with another location. If you can, another time. Try and mix it up a bit. This isn't to make you paranoid. Remember, this is specifically to just make you more vigilant and keep you more safe. The personal perimeter rule, this is one that I've just naturally done, I guess, from being street smart at a young age, but it's not something that everybody thinks about. When it comes to things like ATMs, bus stops, or stations, position yourself with space and sight lines so you can see anybody approaching. That also goes into my next one, which is called stacked barriers strategy. Place physical objects like benches, walls, or planters between you and others in public areas to slow down potential threats. So you really want to just have like a good visual perimeter of people coming in and out of wherever you're going or wherever you're standing, if you can, just placing something between you and other people. It's something you can think about if you're like, oh, this is a new area, I'm not too sure of it. Doing things like that can just put that extra layer of safety around you. Okay, so let's go into car and travel safety. The first one I have is the reverse parking rule. Well, if you're shit at reverse parking, this one might be a bit difficult for you to get into, but it can really, really help for multiple reasons. Always reverse into parking spots for a faster and safer getaway. This also helps to see who's coming towards you. Look, if you can get into the habit of reverse parking into most places, if it's possible, then kudos to you, because that's another fantastic habit to get into, especially if you are walking back to your car at night time and you know that you will be doing that. Reverse parking is 100% a good idea. The quick car door lock. The moment you get into your car, lock the doors. Avoid sitting unlocked or distracted on your phone. This makes you extremely vulnerable. And I have had people literally in Australia try to open my car doors when I have pulled up at the lights. And if my car doors were open, I don't know what would have happened. I would have had to fly kick somebody from the side of my car out the fucking window, or God knows what. Where we all tend to fall short with this one is being distracted on our phones. I see people do it all the time. Fuck, I do it. You sit in your car, you finish the day, it's been a huge day, and you're like, oh, and I'm going to scroll on my phone and get some screen time in. Do that. That's sweet. Do that as much as you want. But just do it with the car doors locked, because if someone dodgy walks past and they see you distracted, that's it. You're vulnerable, and it only takes a few seconds for them to get inside. Now, if you're ever in a situation where you are being followed while you're driving, this is a tip you really need to drill into your head, because instinctually, you're going to want to get straight home in your safe space and lock the doors. But that is the last thing that you should do. If you're being followed, never drive home. Stay on main roads and head to a police or fire station, also calling 000. You don't even want to lead them to your suburb. Stay away from your house, act nonchalant, do not act like you are near an area that you know. Get the fuck out of there and get yourself to safety. As soon as you turn up to a police station, they always drop off anyway. The next one we have here is the check-in and call trick. Before meeting someone new or risky, schedule a check-in call with a code word to signal distress. So, for example, if you're meeting up with somebody or your friend's meeting up with somebody through a dating app and it's a new person, even a new location, or there's a potential for risk there, whatever it is, it's really good to schedule in a certain time where a check-in call is made and you both know a code word. So if the date isn't going well or you need help, you can say that code word in a very calm manner and you will get help. So it adds a layer of protection that someone also knows where you are. I don't think any single person should go out on a date with someone they don't know without at least informing somebody else. Obviously, there's people that feel like they don't have anyone. You don't have to have a million friends to stay safe, like just one single person, even if it's a family member, whoever it is, there is always somebody out there that cares about you, even if it's a work colleague, literally anybody, just one single person who knows where you're going will make all the difference. You hear so many horror stories of women getting hurt when they go and meet up on dates with people they don't know or they go missing. This is just a precaution I think every single person should make. This next one I've called Phone a Friend, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I don't even know if that show still exists, but Phone a Friend is when you feel uneasy walking alone, call a friend and say your exact location and ETA or pretend to. So just literally call someone up, whoever it is, and say, hey, this is where I am right now and I am going to be here at this time. If someone is following you and listening into your conversations, they immediately know that someone is going to be waiting on the other end for you to turn up, and that is a deterrent. They don't want you to be obvious to anyone. They don't want you meeting up with someone. They don't want anyone knowing your location. It puts them in danger of getting in trouble. So it deters them a lot. Or you can just pretend to, but you want to say it nice and loudly so it's obvious that they know somebody is waiting for you. If you are over the age of 18 and you go out drinking anywhere, any bar, any restaurant, wherever it is, this next point is one that you need to know. Every single person should know about this. And honestly, even if you are under 18, knowing this code will get you help anywhere in the world. I did check to see if the RSA here in Australia for responsible service of alcohol teaches people this, and they do not, but it is a code of practice that so many people know, and they are taught it by just being in the hospitality industry. It is standard practice for other countries to know about this specific code word, but I can guarantee that if you said this anywhere, somebody is going to know what you're talking about. So this is called the Angel Shot Code. If you're at a bar and you feel like you're in an uncomfortable or dangerous situation, you can order something called an angel shot, which lets them know that you are in distress or danger and that you need help immediately. Most bar staff are actually trained to know what this means. So this safety measure actually came in when dating apps started to get really popular. This is something that keeps people safe. If you go out and you meet someone, specifically it's for that. If you're feeling like this is a dodgy situation and you're at a bar together and you can go, hey, can I just get an angel shot, please? They are going to come up with a way to get you to safety or get you help. Ask for the angel shot if you're feeling uncomfortable. That is a very sure way of getting help when you need it. This next one might feel a little bit over the top, but depending on how often you're in dangerous situations, this is actually a very handy trick. It's not one that I've done before, but since doing this research and finding this one, I actually might get Frank to make me one pre-recorded. So the fake conversation audio trick is to pre-record and play a male voice memo when walking alone in the dark or quiet areas, giving the illusion that someone is nearby. I guess, first line of defense if you don't have that is to pretend you're on the phone. But when they hear a male voice saying something along the lines of, when you get home, I'll be here, or I'll meet you there in 5 minutes, whatever, just something vague, but it insinuates that someone is close by or meeting you, again, will completely deter someone from wanting to involve themselves with you when other people know of your whereabouts. Okay, this one's a really good one. It probably works for younger people more than it does older people. I mean, you totally could do it. There's nothing stopping you. But I guess from a believable standpoint, the pretending to go live trick is an interesting one. I've never done this myself, but it's extremely smart. And if you have done this, I would love to know. If you're being followed, pretend to start a live video and loudly say where you are and how many people are watching. So you would just get your phone out and be like, oh my God, there's 200 people watching. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for joining the live. Right now I'm blah, 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 and spin the camera around and stuff. No one is going to want to attack you on a live stream. Think about it. It's a live stream to what? You're saying 200 plus people. It's really smart. Okay, next up we have the home and personal property safety section that I've made. This first one is also really good for traveling. Keep conversations friendly but vague, especially when in ride shares, stores, or public spaces. Protecting your personal information keeps you safe and less vulnerable. Do not care about looking like a bitch for not wanting to fully engage with this person. If they're asking you a bunch of open-ended questions and you're just giving them closed answers, don't worry about coming across like a bitch. You don't have to be super nice with people that are asking you things that are way too, just unnecessary for them to know. Always lock everything. Get into the habit of locking everything. It sounds like a bit of a broken record, but you are going to want to do it. Car doors, house doors, dorms, Airbnb doors, especially Airbnb doors. Oh my God. Yeah. Paranoid as fucking Airbnbs personally. Even the door between your garage and house for adding an extra layer of protection. You don't think about it, but if somebody manages to get that garage door open and they can get a clear entry into your house, it's game over and you're going to have to face that person. This goes into my next one. Not everybody has these because they're usually on your car keys, but if you do have a clicker that specifically goes into your car just for your garage door, you're going to have to be really careful with that one. Here I've put, never leave your garage door opener in your car if it's parked in your driveway. This is an extremely common mistake people make, especially if you're living alone. And I spent a lot of time living alone. However, most of the time that I've lived alone, I've been in apartments. So that hasn't been too much of an issue for me because there hasn't been a garage door. If you are living alone and you've got a clicker, you've got a buzzer, you've got a button, whatever it is in your car, and you leave your car unlocked, that's not very safe. It's not very safe. This one I absolutely love because I've always done this and it makes such a difference. It's just a little deterrent to be like, hey, there's actually a guy here too. I call it the men's work boots trick. Place a pair of large men's work boots by your door to imply that you aren't living alone. So it looks like the man that you're with has come home, he's finished work and his boots are at the door. And I actually picked that one up from a friend of mine who was living in her van and traveling around. She always had a pair of men's work boots out the front, and she reckons that it 100% deterred a lot of men from coming near her. Super good for when you're living alone, or if you're not, even if you're just home alone during the day and your husband's out working, get his old pair of boots and put them out the front. Okay, next up, we have solo travel and Uber safety. Only get into the car if the license plate, the driver, and the car exactly match on the application. Always, period. Do not just get into the car without thinking about it. Check all of the details, especially if you're drunk. If it's meant to be some guy and he looks completely different to the one in the picture, you're not getting in that car, okay? Nobody, none of your drunk friends, no one's getting in the fucking car. And report him. On top of that, report the person. Take a screenshot of what your rideshare was supposed to be and contact Uber, Lyft, whoever it is immediately. Another extra layer of protection that I use with Uber, because I only really use Uber in Australia, is the code that you can set up before getting in. So the ride can't actually start until you give them a 4-digit code. They have to tap that in and then that lets them do the ride. Otherwise, they can't start the ride and they won't make any money. When you're traveling, another really good one to do is the fake wedding ring trick. This is pretty self-explanatory, but we kind of forget about doing things like this. I used to do this quite often, and it is a fantastic way of deterring men that you don't want to speak to. Not only can you say that you're married and not interested, you can also lift up your hand and say, I'm married and my husband will be on his way here soon. It's an awesome way of making them have to leave you alone, because if they don't, especially in a public place after you've just said you're married, it causes red flags for everyone around you and they get figured out pretty quickly what their intentions are. Okay, next up we have my favorite, defense tools and practical habits. One of the defense tools that you can have in any country, wherever you are, is a high lumen flashlight. It can disorient attackers in light and dark areas or signal for help. Even better if you can get one that has a strobe setting. So if something happens, God forbid, and you're in a situation where you're trapped or you need help and you need to get attention, you've literally got a flashlight that can strobe, or you can strobe it yourself, turning it on and off, and get the attention you need. Look, it doesn't have to necessarily be a man. It could be the bear or it could be the world. Some natural disaster could happen. There could be an earthquake. You could get trapped. No one can hear you, but they could see that flashlight. A lot of the good quality ones, the small ones that have a lot of power, come with serrated edges. So they're quite sharp, and that can be used as a tool for self-defense if you need to as well. Having a little self-defense torch, very, very handy. You can also carry a personal alarm, small, loud, and effective for scaring off threats and attracting attention. You can get them next day delivery on Amazon, great for deterring people off. Nobody wants to fuck with someone that has an alarm that is piercing through their ears and gaining all of this attention. Now, one thing about having these tools for safety is you need to have them easily accessible. And that is one of the biggest mistakes people make when carrying these. Keep pepper spray, alarm, or other personal safety tools in your hand or easily accessible, not buried in a bag. You really need it to be in easy reach, especially when walking home alone. Remember, a safety tool is only useful when you can access it instantly. Talking about tools, you want to know what your tool does and you want to know how to use it. Practice using your safety tools. Know how they work, their range and their expiry dates, especially with pepper spray. Practice with your self-defense tool and make sure you know how to confidently use it. I'm aware that pepper spray is not legal in any other states of Australia. It's legal to purchase here in WA. It's something that I personally carry on my walks and I won't go out without it. And you guys will find out why later in this episode. It is something that you can purchase over the counter here in Western Australia. However, you need to be very careful in when you're carrying it and what your circumstances are. I'm not going to go and say that I'm encouraging people in Perth to go and purchase it, just in case it lands me in hot water, whatever. If you do decide to get yourself some pepper spray, I would highly suggest getting one that is more like silly string, or they call it a gel base, rather than an aerosol, because with high winds, aerosol can spray right back at you. They're just really unpredictable. I've never had an aerosol one in my life. I just wouldn't risk it. I've always been told not to do it. Like I said before, you need to practice how to use your tool. So with pepper spray, definitely give it a go. Obviously do it outside, be very careful, but you want to get used to using that tool. You don't want to use it for the first time when you're being being attacked. When you do have pepper spray, you need to warn the person before spraying them. You can't actually just go spraying them. You can get charged. And one last thing for the pepper spray, I have been told, and have used it this way since, is to shoot it with your thumb rather than your index finger. When you're using it or about to engage somebody with it, hold it firmly and spray with your thumb for better control and accuracy in stressful situations rather than your index finger. If you're not confident using it, your index finger can actually lead to your wrist twisting and you end up spraying yourself or going in the wrong direction. So always make sure to use your thumb for better control. Last but not least, I have the family code word. Create a code word or even an emoji that your kids, friends, or loved ones can use if they need you to pick them up discreetly or signal that something's wrong at any time. This actually also goes into having a code word for scammers, which you would have heard a lot about recently. Once you've finished listening to this episode, come up with some kind of code word for your loved ones because you never know when that could save any of you. Okay, so now we're going to go into my personal experiences with some close calls. This first one actually happened back in 2022. I had a very close call when I went for one of my morning walks. It was winter and I was going out for my walks at the same time every morning and it was a lot darker. But I was in the consistent pattern of going at that time, so I was awake and I wanted to go for my walks. This was in a place that I grew up in. I spent so many years up until I was 18 in Ocean Reef. Anyone that's in Perth will know the area that I'm talking about. My morning routine consisted of me walking from my mum's house in Ocean Reef all the way down to Mullaloo and along the coast. It was a beautiful walk. I never had any problems. And honestly, I had known that area for so long, I didn't have any worries. But this one morning, I was feeling a little bit uneasy about how dark it was. I made sure to stay in well-lit areas as I was walking, and it was on the main pathways along a main road, which I thought would be fairly safe. Unfortunately, this one morning, my gut was feeling a bit off. However, I continued with my walk. As I was getting close towards the coast, I saw a guy start up his car. He looked like a tradie and just kind of sitting there with it on idle. I didn't think too much of it, but it did feel a little bit weird at the same time. This guy was in a cul-de-sac, so he could see me through bushes into the main road walking along, but couldn't drive directly to access me from where he was. So I continued walking. I was about to hit the coastline and this guy comes out onto the main road and he decides to start catcalling me, had his window down and was staring at me, driving really, really slowly. I immediately was on edge. I was freaking out. I was extremely vulnerable walking along this main road. To my left was the main road and where he could drive up close to me, and to my right was a park that was completely black. My immediate instinct was to run into that park, but then I was essentially trapped and there was no houses around for me to kind of get help. So there was no one in there. That felt like a dead end. And then I would be running towards his car if I went to the left. So I'm continuing to walk forward, trying to ignore this man. He drives right up onto the curb and essentially tells me to get into the car. Once he said that, I started power walking straight past his car and he was driving really slowly. He continued to drive past me as I was walking across that main road because he had passed at this point. But he was driving really slowly towards a roundabout on this main road and staring at me through his rearview mirror, which was absolutely terrifying. I can't tell you how scary it was watching this man tell me to get into his fucking car because he said, "Get the fuck into my car, bitch." I was immediately freaking out. Tried to keep calm because I felt like if I started sprinting so he could see that, then it would be like a fun chase for him. So I'm power walking across the main road to get to the coast and where there's houses immediately, built up on the coastline. Once he hasn't got a good vision of me, he then starts speeding and I can hear his car revving around this roundabout. Once he was far enough, I decided to start sprinting and I could hear his car coming again. So I'm running around looking down the coastline. There's usually people out at this point, but there was no one. It was too dark and it was too early. I really shouldn't have been doing what I was doing. So out of instinct, I decided to throw my body across this built up wall. It was just short enough for me to kind of just throw myself over it. I didn't have to climb it. This man starts driving really slowly in front of all of these houses along the pathway because there's no other cars around. So he's doing whatever he wants. It was so fucking scary. And he kept just doing laps, taunting me, saying, I'll find you. You'll have to come out at some point. I'm bawling my eyes out, trying to stay quiet behind this wall, freaking out that if he just simply gets out of his car and has a physical look, he's going to find me. Each time he would drive past, I kind of looked around my surroundings to see if there was anyone's attention I could get. But to be honest, everyone was sleeping. I was trying to stay really quiet. As soon as he drove far enough away, I got onto the phone to my brother, who I knew was home at my mum's place, to quickly come down and get me. My brother stays on the phone to me, and as soon as I know that he's there, I jump over the fence and I get to safety. We also saw another lady who was walking with her dog and told her what had happened, and she called her husband to come and pick her up, and we stayed with her as well. This was absolutely terrifying for me. Having to hide and stay completely silent and this man taunting me to get into his car honestly put me off going for my walks for ages. And to this day, I don't feel good about going for walks by myself, even during the day. When I did report it to police, they basically told me off for not calling them first rather than my brother. But police can take way too long sometimes. And as much as I wanted to call them, I just didn't want to fuck around. I wanted someone to come and help me. So that was what I did. I never quite recovered 100% from that because it was so unexpected. It was in an area that I had literally grown up in. I went multiple times back to that area to see if that guy ever turned up again, and his car was never there. Unfortunately, at the time, I was so freaked out by what was happening, I didn't memorize his number plate. I know exactly what he looks like, but I didn't memorize the number plate. If you are in a situation where you can get their plates, you absolutely should, and I usually would, but I was a sitting duck. It was me against a man in a car in a big, wide open space, and I had to get myself the fuck out of his eyesight immediately, even though it's like he knew exactly where I was. It was terrifying. So ladies, now that we are going into winter, please remember to change the time that you go out for your walks. Make sure that it's well lit and stay in places that you know. This next story is more about instinct than anything else, and I didn't actually think that I was going to talk about it on the podcast anytime soon, but it makes a lot of sense to talk about it in this situation. I want to highlight it because sometimes you think that situations are going to be safe with friends that you think you know. You should just always be very aware of your surroundings, especially if you're under the influence of anything. You really need to be assessing the areas and spaces that you're walking into. I was freshly 18 and having a big night out with my friends. We had all been doing some MD. So if you have taken that before, you'll know that it's a very happy drug and it makes you just love everything and be in a really good headspace, right? I had never taken that and been in an extremely dangerous, scary situation before. So it was a bizarre feeling to be on something that makes you feel so happy and then have to be quite literally running for your life. Whenever I was at clubs, I always wanted to go for an adventure or go for a smoke or do something to get out of the actual club itself. I don't know if anyone else is the same as me with that. But if somebody said that they were going to do something else or go back to someone's house, I was always down for the change of scenery. So my friend at the time said to me that she wants to go to her friend's house and just chill there for a bit. And I was like, sure, no worries. I'm ready for an adventure. I'm high as a kite. So I'm keen to do whatever you're doing. Anyway, we walk across the road and it's to an apartment building I've never been before. I think we were at Amber, so it was going across the road from there. If you're familiar with Perth, you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we go over there and this guy comes to the door and lets us in. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, it's her friend. Don't be too wigged out. He seems a little bit strange. He seemed really wired, but I was just on drugs that make me super happy and not question too much, which is so bad. When I walked into this apartment, I immediately felt sick. There was something off. There was not many lights on because the light bulbs were missing. All right. Something that I do know is that when a bunch of light bulbs are missing and somebody's looking really wired, they are probably using that as a tool to smoke some drugs with. This apartment was basically empty. It was almost like emptier than a really basic Airbnb. It was bizarre. It wasn't something that someone lives in there all the time. It was almost like a place to do drugs. Anyway, I decided to go and have a smoke on the balcony and I called my friend. She was about half an hour away and I said to her, I'm feeling really sketchy about the situation that I'm in. I'm kind of freaking out. I almost want to kind of like climb the balcony and go to the next apartment below. I don't want to be in here and I don't know what to do. So I'm on the balcony of this apartment and this guy's inside pacing around. My friend's sitting on the couch and they're kind of organising doing something, but I don't know what it is. I just wanted to get out of there. And I kind of like opened the door. My friend was still on the phone, walked in and I said, I think I'm going to go back. Like, I just want to go for a dance kind of thing. Shall I meet you down there? Anyway, this guy stands in the way of me walking towards the door and is like, no, you should stay. You should party with us. You don't need to go back there. You can stay with us. You can stay with us. And I was like, oh, I really need some water. Like I'm all good. Like kind of just trying to be like really chill about getting out of there. And he's getting very forceful about me staying. He says, no, you're going to want some of this. Anyway, he's standing in front of me, lights a lighter, gets a spoon and starts melting down some drugs. And there's needles on the table. I'm freaking out internally because this guy could very easily attack me and he looked like he wanted to and he really wanted me to stay. And I was like, oh, look, I don't do that. Like I'm all good. I'll take a pass on that. Like it's all sweet. Shitting myself. I have never injected drugs before and I sure as fuck wasn't going to start doing it there. Anyway, my friend is like staying really silent and I'm freaking out about her as well. I'm thinking, what? Like, is she willingly wanting to do this? Like, I didn't know that it was something that she did. I had no idea that she was going to inject meth. That's what it was. It was meth. It makes me really sad thinking about it. Oh my God, I don't know why I feel emotional. I think it's because like we weren't that close, but it's because like I didn't know that that's what she was doing and I knew that she had her own problems going on, but I just had no idea that that's what she was doing. Anyway, I forgot how traumatic this was. This guy goes over to my friend with a needle full of the stuff that he just melted down and she willingly puts her arm out and he injects her with it. I didn't know that this was a thing, but the drugs that he heated up, he was supposed to let it cool down. And when he injected it, it was super hot in her veins and she was screaming in pain. Not only that, it was a used needle. So he had just used it on himself prior to that. I was absolutely terrified. I froze because I was watching her scream in pain, not knowing what to do. Keep in mind, I'm high as a kite on much more friendly partier drugs. Anyway, that high got cut very quickly because this man not only just hurt my friend with these drugs, he started coming at me with the needle. And I went into fight or flight mode immediately, got myself the fuck out of there. This man literally chased me with a needle out the door, down the stairwell. Actually, I'm thinking about it now. There's been 2 times where I've ran down stairwells for my life from men. Funnily enough, if you listen to my episode about my secret sex work, the same thing happened, but in a different way. But yeah, this man came running after me and I just flew. Like I just remember flying, got to the bottom level. Thankfully, this wasn't a super tall building. Ran out straight over to Amber and I'm like, talking to my friends being like, did you know that so-and-so is doing this? Like I'm freaking out. I wanted to get her to safety. Other people didn't want to get involved, but it was something that I got told that she was choosing to do at the time. Keep in mind, my friend was on the phone the entire time in my bag. She could hear what was going on and she was already driving into the city as fast as she could. So making that phone call as soon as my gut feeling told me something was wrong was the smartest thing that I could have done. I'm telling you guys that when something feels off, take action immediately, because it didn't take long for my friend to turn up into the city and she was there to take me home to safety. I didn't want to be out clubbing anymore. I didn't want to be out at all. I was high as well. It was a very, very scary experience. And the fact that I even felt like literally scaling a building to get away from this man before I had even seen what he was doing just goes to show like those senses that we have, we need to tap into them. And honestly, if he came at me with that on the balcony, I probably would have quite literally like climbed around and swung myself onto the next person's, because I just was not going to let that man come at me with a used needle. And I walked into that innocently, not knowing what the potential threat was. She didn't tell me, oh, I'm going to go and get high with a random dude. Like, I had no idea what was coming for me. To be honest, I wish I called the police and told them about that situation. But at the time, I just stayed the fuck out of it. I think you should report things to authorities so that there's like a record of it at least, even if they don't do something, which they often don't do shit. But it is good to have it on record about what happened. And I do wish that I reported that situation. I was just happy that I got out of there safely. I'm shocked that I got emotional about that. I didn't expect to, but I think, yeah, seeing my friend be hurt in that way and hearing someone scream in pain from hot drugs being injected into them is absolutely terrifying. It was crazy the effect that it had seeing that be injected into her. Like, I'd never seen anything like it. But other than that, I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode and were able to take something valuable away from it. I truly believe that knowledge is power, and so is trusting your gut. Because I tell you what, guys, that gut feeling of mine has saved my life multiple times. I said it at the start, but I'll say it again, to please just remember that it's all about being vigilant and aware and not about being paranoid. I don't want you to be living in fear after hearing this. The more conscious and alert that we are, the better we can protect ourselves and the people around us. So if there's anyone you think that would benefit from this in your life, please share it around. I know that it can be so beneficial, and even just one of these could help save someone and keep them safe. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. Please stay safe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please give it a share. You never know who might need a little emotional content in their life. For daily feel-good posts, follow @_emotional content on Instagram and TikTok. And don't forget to hit that follow button so you're notified every time a new episode drops. Your support means the absolute world to me.